Introduction. Understanding the categorization of related development. Developed, developing and underdeveloped, developed countries, developing countries, underdeveloped countries. The development debates. So, objective. After reading this unit, you should be able to describe the criteria of categorization of developed, developing, and underdeveloped nation. Discuss the meaning and definition of developed, developing, and underdeveloped economy. Analyze the potential economic basis relationship between countries and limits of economic development, possibilities of poorer area. Discuss the different dimensions of development debates. Introduction. Previous units we discussed the instruments and the factors of development. In this unit we will discuss the category of countries in the terms of developed, developing and underdeveloped. We will also discuss the development debates. In terms, development is difficult to define as the definition depend on the context in which they began used. Although it is used frequently in the day-to-day conversation and political discussion, where there are some assumed notions attended to by user of the term. The first clarified to be made here is that the term development may refers to many domination of knowledge like personality, maturity, education, organization, cognitive, moral learning, psychological, life language, adulthood, etc. The term also refers to a number of characterizations such as demographical change, economical growth, industrial uses of resources, demonstration, higher level of technology, and political freedom. Thus, we infer from about the discussion that the understanding of the concept of development can be started from the individual level, but gradually it encompasses the other social beings who live in the community and society. The attempt of understanding the concept of development do not stop here. The further enter into the boundaries of social relation, social functioning, and social structure. In turn, the social structure and further influenced and interviewed with the economic, culture, educational, religious, and political, ideological function and their structure. Now, before moving the developing, and underdeveloped classification, the related issue, let us first define the term development. Oxford Dictionary, the thesaurus mention it has the stage of growth or advancement. But such literary meaning against the place as in between confusion. The confusion which emerge here is regarding the synonymous terms used to clarify the term development. For example, change, growth, wealth, and progress, among others. Let us make distinction in the short between these words. We may begin with the term change, which literacy significant make becoming different. However, we may observe from the meaning that the changes by result in the direction growth mean to increasing size, height, among etc. Wealth meaning being rich or have in the obedience of affluence, asset, capital, money, etc. On the other hand, progress means to move forward or onward. On comprehension, sociological definition of development is also provided by the Gunnar Myrdal, 1974. He defined development in terms of upward movement of the entire society system. Understanding the categorization of related to development. After differentiation of synonymous treatment, let us discuss the category of the development. Development studies as an area of research have their origin in the aftermath of the World War II. The reconstruction of war events countries in the attempt economic development. The origin of the development was ideology can trace the era of industrialization in the 19th century. Political and social thinking, Max Weber, Karl Marx, and Emily Durkheim, different perspectives on the common observation and social were changing from traditional form marked by authorities and beliefs stem from the superstition, fatalism of emotion, to modern form of domination by the application of reason and rationality alongside the emphasis on efficiency and the ability to explain the world scientific Durkheim. The legacy of this key thinker is widely acknowledged as the origin of the development theory, taking form of modernization theory. Further, if we look into the history of his concept, we will find the recovery of various countries after the World War II. The decolonization process leads as the foundation of the development as policy. The conception of strength of future with a focus on the addressing of major social problem of poverty, unemployment and social exclusion. United Nations 1995 report of the World Summit for Social Development. Weber 1990 argued that for understanding the development related problems, we need examine the place of poor countries globally in terms their social and economic relationship with each other. Secondly, it is prime consideration to all studies, particularly features of particular society in terms of the effect which development will make on it. One also need to analyze the interaction outcome of cultural and economical progresses with regard to social development. The historical past, the political decision of various governments in the terms of plan and the exclusion for social development also require the investment for estimate the influence of international agencies and international relations. EBIT. A map shows the first, second and third world divided. Using the above mentioned the feature of geography development has also the proceeding different categorized the map to show the level of world development. One such category is although constant by the formatted by Alfred Senvi in 1952 article. 3 world on 1 planet. The conception of 3 underworld is basic on the traditional social structure of French society. Here is a noblesse was the first order, clergy was the second, and the rest other word counted and third order. He portrayed the capitalist countries, the first world communities countries, and the second and rest other countries as the third world. This categorization helps us to partially understand the development market economy country as the first world country was the industrialized or are in the process of industrialization are centrally directed second world and the least development poor countries and third world. The World Bank made difference between low and middle income development countries. The World Development Report 1978, North America, Western Europe, Japan, Australia and New Zealand fall under the first world category. The second world considered the state controlled communities countries such as the form USSR Union of Soviet Socialist Republic, Federal Sovereign State in Northern Eurasia extended 1992 to 1991. The third world contained all the over less development country. Area of literature of different development reports enabled by the providing different statistics evidence in the content of level of development, generally they refer to such categorize population growth, life expectancy, health, education, urbanization, income distribution, industrialization, and energy consumption. It is noted that the gap between wealth and poor great. The majority of people in third world countries are very poor. These countries have in a colonial past as well. The widespread poverty goes hand in hand with the misuse of the critical resource. For example, much labor is idle for much of the time, while when it is labor productive in very low. It can also be noticed that some countries have achieved sustainable growth and allow them to develop while many others cannot. This gap between them has been the core of economic since the day of founding father of the discipline, Smith Ricardo Malthus Marx, whose concern was the study of determining the wealth of the nation, after which major history milestone the foundation of development policy laid down. Whether should be analyzed the interacting outcome of the culture economic process regarding social development. Who concept the three world, one planet idea? And last one, which international organization made the difference between low and middle income development country 1917? Developed and developing and underdeveloped. According to Kuznets 1968, the distinction between the developed and underdeveloped and developed or developing countries was announced by United Nations in its national according to statistics yearbook in 1965. While excluding the communities countries, the list include North America, while United States and Canada, Europe, Oceania, a large Australia and New Zealand, Japan and South Africa in the development country group. Asia excludes Japan, Africa excludes South South Africa and Latin America are kept in the development country group. Kuznets Ibid also argue they include USSR and some countries of Eastern Europe in the development group list. However, the issues of categorize is not very easy as there is a complexity involved. The reason for developing state for few countries by using political advantages in the form of resources, illusion and monopolies over trade and commerce. On the other hand, the issue became debates as the dichotomous division of the country into developing and developed also involves the policy level issue like transforming of resources from developed to developing countries. Person et al. 1969. In such an uncertain backdrop, many organizations of international level have used membership of Organization of Economic Cooperation and developed OECD as the criteria for determining the developing country. But such method seems faulty when we reach a result of 15 to 20% of the country as a developed, remaining 80 to 85% countries as developing. We use the category of which country. Hangwadi 1971 argued that look at the methodology of World Bank using World Bank Atlas methods of classification different countries. For the year 2020, we may find the country has GNI per capita between and the term as income economics counters in GNI per capita between and the kept lower middle income group and the country have GNI per capita or more called upper middle income economic. However, this is a content of national United Nations clarified there is no established criteria for determining the status of development of developing country. Such criteria only reflect the convincing measure of adopted for portraying the statistics, so we may not base our decision to identify the particular country in relation its ranking on the scale of development track used upon such convinced ideas. It also stated as a false criteria become of the fact and economic development does not necessarily bring equality in any particular country. If the fruit of the economic growth are not distributed uh, properly, then the rich segment of the society will become rich and poor become poor. United Nations 2019 and state of the scientific year, statistic year. Check the progress. The destiny between developed and underdeveloped or developing countries was announced by United Nations its dash year of 1965. Yearbook of 1965. The dichotomous division of countries in developing and developed began debates as it invented the policy level issues like from developed to developing countries. What does the abbreviation of OECD stand for? The United Nations clarified there are no established criteria for determining the state of development or developing countries, such as criteria on reflect, measure, and adapt to obtain the status. Developed countries. The above discussion has to lead to the pool of few criteria like developed economy and comparative advanced level of the technology and infrastructure with the addition of the comparison of living standard of the cities of particular country, the gross domestic product GDP, the gross national product GNP, and the per capita income. It may broadly be used to the scale of determining the developed countries standard the similar to the industrial country with have advanced economic. It is also categorized by having advanced technology, infrastructures, and diverse industrialization and service sector. Due to this, citizens of development countries typically enjoy the quality lifestyle, having better access to health and education service. The developed countries as where they achieve the economic programs are thus prescribed as a footprint the understand developed countries. In a very different manners of form, footprint of the understand countries in very different manners of the form. United Nations Secretary General Kofi Annan has the defined a development country as follow. A developed country is one that allows all citizens to enjoy a free and healthy life self environment. The social characteristics of development country also show a close association between the cultural heritage and the poses and the pattern of belief, social life, the preference for materialistic life, the scientific temperature, etc. lead the way to modernization and economic growth in country. The attempt to the embrace modernity also give the result as a development and the growth accomplished the industrial sector enlarged the Samuel P. Huntington describe modernization as a industrialization, urbanization, increasing level of literacy, education, wealth, social mobility, and more complex and diversified occupation structure. Westernization, on the other hand, is seen as the conventions to the way of Western civilization. It is regarding the social process in which non-Western peoples are assembled into the Western culture or assembled in the European culture. Hence, Westernization and Europeanization become enriched in the contest. However, modernization theory has been criticized almost advanced of many social scientists. The theory was begun critics from the neo-modernist and Marxist viewpoint, it was pointed to modernization theory seems very Western-centric and has nothing to do with the non-Western world. The country of Western European and North Atlantic evidence evolved through the process of outline the raw toss in order to become modern Rostov present the definition according to how countries pass through five stages development, tradition society, precondition for takeoff, and right to the maturity and age of mass high consumption. Hence, there is a no denying of the fact the modernization process first occurred. It was well through the twin process. Industrialization and commercialization, it was the industrial revolution and what the world movement changes from the traditional agricultural society to modern industrial and commercialized society. Vishan, Vaish, uh, Vaishnavki standard that the modernization formed great axis around which history to main event have to turn since the end 18th century, the time of the industrialized revolution, England and Great French Revolution, and gradually spread every more new countries and region, especially in 20th century. Based on the historical background influenced by evolutionary theory, modernization is considered a linear process from traditional society. In underdeveloped country, move towards the more evidence-based society. Thus, from the economic central view of the development, traditional society is often judged to the rule backyard on the non-specific emotion or undeveloped, while modern society, by contrast, the urban, industrial, rational to scientific development. Thus, development is set up as a reflect these dichotomics. Developing countries. The developing countries consist major of the population and area of the world. According to the esteemed development countries cover the around 75% of the total and area and approximate 85% of the total population of the world. Alvarado Gaspineri 2050 that determine the status of country and the developing the criteria of gross domain product GDP per capita is used. This means that all the goods and services produced by the country is given analyze US dollar according to the World Trade Organization WTO. Two-thirds of its members countries fall in the category of developing countries. This is a diverse group of countries who have different aspirations and problems to deal with. However, they are very significant in numbers and this become very important for the global economy WTO. Development countries, there are specially proven made for these countries under the organization through Committee on the Trade and Development. Provision of special right and leniency rules to frame for development countries so that they may develop the comprehension using these favor. Not only this, the General Agreement to the Trade GATT and General Agreement on the Trade of Service GATS also provision for some professional treatment and non-expectation of similar offer by the developed country while making trade negotiation with the developing country. Developing countries are also provide legal assistance, extra time, or fulfilling the commitments, increase the opportunity for marketing access, safeguard of their interests, and help various sectors of development. For the definition as provided, Kofi Annan, we may argue the development shall also be measured along the human factors. The developing countries thus try to achieve the industrialization with respect to the population, also try to raise the standard of the living with the above mentioned profession. When we look at the detailed criteria for developing country, we may find the statistical measurement like per capita income, per capita gross domestic product, like expectancy, the rate of literacy, freedom index, etc. are used. One such scale where you may see the Human Development Index HDI by the United Nations further. United Nations has the Environment Millennium Declaration for the countries of the world reference point in the term of development. These targets are very helpful determine in the policy in the funding of the development country. United Nations Millennium Declaration 2000. The United Nations Goal of Sustainable Development also new additions such as target United Nations Transforming Our World. The 2030 Agenda of Sustainable Development. World Bank look up the developing countries is an asserting way of the state that these countries have relevant low levels taxation. The really heavy on the regarding renews the instrument as a low coverage and benefit of level of transforming program. Therefore, it can be argued the developing countries suffer the substantial infrastructures limiting and the raise question about whether is not highlight rate growth projected will actually to realize. Hence, the developing countries are very different in terms of economical development and in institutional capital. Understanding underdeveloped countries. SIAM 2018 provide very unique and three divisional segment in describe the difference between different type of countries in the world. He says that some countries are three world citizens spend lot of money for keeping the weights low. Second type of countries where citizens eat to the leave, and third type of countries where citizens do not know from where the subsequent meals will come from. How somehow the last category is somehow related to underdeveloped country where survival of people categorized lot of questions before ruling entire. Here it became a perspective of the related ideas of colonism and neo-colonism. While during the colonism, few countries acquired total of partial control to the colonies' country policy. The exploitation of economically Oxford Dictionary of Sociology 2006, it is conducted the neo-colonial perspective emphasis that era of colonialism is not entered the abolished since many states of that appear to be independent are still economically and politically controlled from outside. Most often to the economic means in order to ensure the continuous domination of colonies. Former colonies. According to the Adher Gunnar Frank, the former colony nations were underdeveloped become often dependent Western industrial nation in the area of foreign trade in investment. These relationships stunted their development. The reason these places are poor and under development are become the structure of the exploitation, capitalism, the world trade. Modernization tends to forget the historic experience, the third world, to the study of relation between the developed and developing countries. Dependency theory was developed in the late 1950s under the guidance of the directors of the United Nations Economic Commission of Latin America. Rural Perbisht begins the most suitable, appropriate one of the understand the developing and dependent theory predict on the nation the resource flow from the periphery. The poor understand develop to god of the wealthy status, enrich latent expense of the form. Perbish, along with other foundations, the poor countries do not necessarily get benefited by the advancement of the industrialization on the country. The economic advance of the richer country frequently leads to economic struggles and problems for the poor countries. The debates between published liberal reform and anti-economic Marxist and Walterson world system theory provide use many incidents with respect to the underdeveloped country. First of all, the many take help of the skill in 1969 who argue that economic development of the state is very much dependent on the external political, economic, and cultural influence, and hence on the development policy also defined the dependent theories Santos 1970 highlight a historical root of relationship of different countries and argue that functioning the world economy favors some countries and in the turn which is determined to the other. It poses limitation of subordination economic to development. The development debates. Immanuel Walson world system theory talk about the divide in the world on the basis of economic development. The very level of the differentiation in the form of government as a both developed and underdeveloped country have been labeled as a core of periphery respectively. The growth of the inequality revealed by dependent theory, the world system theory, it was generator skepticism and further critics a view of development as a linear progress. Since 90s, the so-called post-development debates engage between the debates generated by the concept of post-development, several aspects of nation of economic center development has been critiqued as the follow. First, strongly critique concern the ideas of economic growth equal with progress. In some cases, the sole pursuit of economic growth will bring about more problems which the turn does harm to the progress. Global and regional inequality mentioned above. One example, the second example is the failure of the poverty reduction, which was the central aspect, showed the consequence of the unequal economic system. Under this economic center development of paradigm, it is taken the granted the poverty eradication can be naturally achieved with economic growth. However, with the condition of inequality, poverty is not reduced by become worse with an unequal economic system. Another important problem is that the soul of pursuit of economic growth is often based on high stake of natural resource, and this is the turn causes serious environment problem. Secondly, the economic center development paradigm has been criticized on the basis the development has become discourses that create a power relationship between developed and underdeveloped countries in social group. Third, the top of the approach the adopt in the economic center development process is criticized for overlooking the locations and subjective the local people. Fourth, the presume that tradition social is background. Underdeveloped often cause demands tradition, culture and local relationship instead. Because these problems, many scholars argue that development may cause underdeveloped and even development in some poor countries or region. The critics has been extended to understand the development. The term development now extends a far wider horizon, such cultural aspect rather than mercy. Economic development, moreover, many scholars suggest a bottom-up approach such participatory development approach by involving local participation and local knowledge during the development planning and decision making. Thus, to understand the development is no longer limited to economic growth, but rather it is extended people's chosen capital. Check out progress 3. Who proponed the world system theory? The number 2, the economy center development paradigm has been criticized on the basis that development has become discourses the criteria the power relationship between dash country or social groups. Number 3, who argue for extended and concept of development in terms of expanding people and shows the capabilities. Many scholars argue that development may cause dash and even development some poor countries regio. Let us sum up. In this unit, you will explore the categories of countries in terms of developed, developing and underdeveloped. The categories help to the partially understand the development market economic countries, the first world country which are industrialized and in proper industrialization and consider directly the second world and least developed poor countries as the third world. Emmanuel Welvin world system theory talk about the division world on the basis of economic development, the very level of difference in the form of government, and both developed and underdeveloped countries have been labeled as a core, perhaps respectively. The understanding of the development is no longer limitation economic growth, but rather it is extended to the explained people chosen capability. Developed means the upward movement of the entire social system. Three world, one planet concept. The concept of three order world is based on the traditional social structures of French society, where noble was first order, clergy was second, and rest order was the content of third order. Poverty. This has been defined in many ways, mainly by the pretty line falling below, which was person is called poor. According to the World Bank, people living in the earning of less than per day and classify in the group of extreme poverty, living in the income less than $3.10 in the modern poverty growth. Westernization, the social process in which non Western peoples are assembled into the Western cultural pattern. Modernization. Modernization as a industrialization, urbanization, increasing level of literacy education, wealth and social mobility, and more complex and diversified occupational structures. Sustainable development. Sustainable development as a development that meets the needs of present without compromising the ability of future generation to meet their own needs. After World War II, the colonist process, the focus on the address of major social problems of poverty, employment, and social exclusion. Yes, one should analyze the international outcomes of the culture and the economic process with regarding social development. Afis Survey 1952. The World Bank's annual report titled World Development Report in 1978. National Accounting Statistics, Truffle Resource Organization Economic Cooperation Development Convent. Emmanuel Wall Street, Developed and Underdeveloped, Amartya Sen, Underdeveloped.